Biz Dev Live is live. Thank you for joining me. This is Biz Dev Live with Cameron T. I am looking forward to talking about how you can better tell your story to tell your folks why they should do business with you. We're going to get into it right after the theme song. Stay tuned.
Biz Dev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Biz Dev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T. This is business development, not even selling it. This is intelligent. If you watch it, I promise you benefit. Leadership and motivation, empathy and inspiration. Leadership and motivation, empathy and inspiration. Biz Dev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Biz Dev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T.
Hey! So I'm so excited today to talk to you about telling your story. So working and networking within the group of master networks. This was this week's tidbit, and I love pulling inspiration from the networking meetings I attend and the people that I'm talking to drive value for folks that are watching on this channel. So if you're watching live or you're watching later, I'm so excited that you're on this channel. Please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell so you get notifications for the videos, and let me tell my story to you. For your business, for your brand, for what you are doing, a great way to interact with people is to let people know who you are. Too often I see on people's websites, and you're creating a website for your service, your brand, your consulting agency, your event planning website. I go to the contact page and I just have this form that I can fill out. That doesn't tell me a story about you. Now, if I go to about you and you're actually talking about you and not the royal we, and we do this and we do that, and we, I don't really have any kind of association with you. I don't know who you are necessarily, and I don't necessarily identify in any way, just the way that I wouldn't identify with Pepsi if I go to their brand. Now, the way I might really identify with Pepsi or Coke or Tesla or any other thing from the marketing or advertising or the social media that comes out of that product or brand is identification with values, with where they're coming from, with where they're going. Even talking about that, you sort of get pictures in your head of brands that you like, sort of the flavor of either the way they taste or what they do or where they're going, that sort of thing, or where they've been from. How do we connect? So here's the thing. To structure your story, to tell your story, think about the things that have shaped and developed you, things that have sort of been turning points on the road. And those are going to be compelling things for you to talk about. Where were uncomfortable pieces in your story that other people might identify with? Don't overthink it. Don't think about whether or not the person that you're necessarily talking to today is going to identify. As you tell your story, if you aren't used to telling your story, you will get better at it. Having been in 700 plus hour-long in-person interviews with 700 candidates over the last 9 years, over and over again, I was asked, and it was a good question, something that could have been searched up online in a lot of cases because they had a very basic understanding. But a lot of times candidates will ask you, well, how did you start Toth Event Staffing? Especially because I'm the owner and CEO and I'm in the interview. So getting good at telling that story, but not only getting good at telling that story in a way that tells your story, but also impacts the person that's in front of you, is something that comes with time. So now I'm speaking to somebody that wants to be an entrepreneur. I'm going to tell my story in a way that really hits on the highlights of creating something and building your own business, and the touch points of actually organizing and legally incorporating, and all the pieces that go into business and incorporation and building something that is an organization, something an entrepreneur would do. If I'm talking to somebody that is a career waiter, my story is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to talk about my roots of, being in bartending school and getting my first job at World Yacht, and that transition from World Yacht to going to a temp staffing agency, and then them shipping me up to Purchase, New York, and Manhattanville College, and going from an admin role, which I was horrible at, to a cafeteria manager role that I think, at least on certain days, I incredibly rocked out and really did an amazing job, and was part of the foundation for me later getting a food service director position at another company that allowed me the confidence to one day open up Toth Event Staffing. When you tell those stories and you're able to touch on those points, you are able to shape somebody's opinion of you. But to get there, you got to tell that story, and you probably got to tell it a few times. So get comfortable with it. Go back to your childhood. What are some of the decisions that made you go to the schools or do the things and hobbies that you enjoyed? Think about these things in parts, and just kind of draw an outline either in your head or ideally on paper of your story. This could be the start of your memoirs or your book. That on a personal branding side of things, you should definitely be doing. Everybody's experience is amazing, and while it's unique, your story is your story, it'll have so many commonalities with so many other people. Either they'll identify with you, or it'll be nice insight into someone else's way of living and upbringing. So really embrace your story, rock it out, tell it over and over and over again. Be short with it, expand as you get comfortable with it. Tell it on paper if you feel comfortable telling it in writing on LinkedIn. Tell it in video if you feel comfortable on video. Tell it through photos if you have a photo and can create a photo collage of interesting moments. Those are great ways to share your story. Do bite-sized pieces of your story. I can talk to you about, the challenging times in 2009 when I was laid off, which was a precursor to opening up Toth Event Staffing as well, and all of the transitional dynamics. So if I'm talking to somebody that is going through tough and hard times, I can talk to them and tell them a story about how my wife had to spend 14 months in Mexico with my 3-year-old daughter and 1-year-old son, and I can pull on the heartstrings. That's not me being fake. That's a real story. That's something that really happened. And in an appropriate situation, it will really help me identify and help the person I'm talking to identify with my story. Understand your story. Obsess over it, because it is your thing. It is unique to you. It is part of what you bring to the table and what you offer. And folks want to do business with people that get them. So with that website, with that social media, with that networking conversation, get really comfortable sharing that story and making it personal. I guarantee you'll have success. Have a great day. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Biz Dev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Biz Dev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T. This is business development, not even selling it. This is intelligent. If you watch it, I promise you benefit. Leadership and motivation, empathy and inspiration. Leadership and motivation, empathy and inspiration. Biz Dev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Biz Dev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T.